What do CEOs need to know about sales these days? A lot. Outdated sales strategies and tactics plague most companies today. Listen to what innovative CEOs and experts have to say about how to change all that with Sales Talk for CEOs. Welcome to Sales Talk for CEOs. Well, a topic you know that I'm crazy about is the fact that salespeople all want to have more conversations with people who can buy from them, right? I mean, why wouldn't they? But the thing that I also talk about a lot is the huge role that CEOs can play in that. So much so that my friend Samantha McKenna built a business around it. Founder, mom, expert, and award winner. Welcome to the show, Samantha.
Oh my gosh. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for hosting me, Alice. Anytime I get to spend time with you is good.
Yeah. Yes, ditto. So happy that you're here. And the last time you were here, which has been quite a few years now, you were our expert on LinkedIn and personal branding, one of my favorite topics, and helping me try to talk the CEOs who listen into making themselves known on LinkedIn and sharing their thoughts and really help to brand for their companies so their salespeople can have more conversations with people who can buy. And I know you founded Sam Sales on that exact premise. And so tell the audience a little bit about what Sam Sales does today.
Yes. So I started this business just thinking about how can I teach people to sell better, whether it's the emails they send, their presence on LinkedIn, how do they sell in a more human and authentic and high quality way? We have all been subjected to really, really terrible sales practices. And let's think about how we do the total opposite and really stand out in a positive way. So from top of the funnel sales training, prospecting, email sequences, all the things that we do there to get somebody's attention, to social selling and doing that the non-slimy way, and building executive presence on LinkedIn from founders to Fortune 500 CEOs and celebrities alike. We're doing quite a bit over here. We're having a great time though. Send caffeine.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And oh my gosh, I know you were named in the Collective AI 100, which is amazing. Our friend Heidi Messer over there with Collective AI, excellent. And you've been in USA Today and Newsweek, and you've been quoted on this very important topic. Again, yes, salespeople should be on LinkedIn. They should be using it properly. But what about the senior executives? What about the CEO?
I think one of the things that people get wrong too is one, they think, should I even be on there? What do I have to say? But then when they do finally get on there, they're thinking about how they just promote the company. And I think what's interesting is that this is your profile. Yes, you were building brand awareness for the organization. Yes, there's lots that you can talk about strategic positioning events you're doing, pictures of you at conferences, but people also want to know exactly what you interview them for, Alice. They want to know their journeys, their histories, their human interest stories. And I think one of the easiest things I can do to always point back of kind of the right way to do it is John Gray, who is the COO at Blackstone, right? So when we think one chief executive, then we think of Blackstone, we think really buttoned up, really polished, probably some really thrilling financial content. But if you pop over to his profile, he shoots himself running in the morning and just talking about his life. I mean, they're terribly shot running videos, but they're so authentic and you get to know him and they go viral. So if you think about what that can do as a communication channel, executives on the platform get so much more reach. They're so much more trustworthy. PR is still really important, but this is a modern methodology around PR.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think PR has changed so much, and we don't have a lot of control over, but we have control over this.
Yeah.
On the platform. We have control, and I think people need to take it. All right. So almost 6 years old. You've bootstrapped this company amazingly. Another female founder. Woo! And I want to hear the story. I know everyone wants to hear the story. I know some pieces of it, but I can't wait to dig in. So let's rewind back to you. You were working. You can tell us where and what happened and how this idea came to you. And then I think the piece I really want you to tell people is about what you did getting ready for this. So it was like you launched your business and you already had customers, which is phenomenal. So, all right, I'll let you tell the story. Let's take it back about 6 years. What were you doing? And then how did you get the idea for this company?
I was at LinkedIn, so I had hit, in my opinion, the holy grail places I wanted to work for. I loved LinkedIn as a brand. If you still open up one of my arms, I bleed Sam Sales orange in one and LinkedIn blue out of the other. It was an incredible job. But something interesting happened while I was there. So in my previous two companies, I had been an individual contributor, then I had become a leader, then an executive leader, and so on and so forth. And I kept breaking all these sales records. I kept doing everything that other people weren't doing, kept being at the top of the leaderboard, rep of the year, taking my team to be rep of the year, et cetera. And I also realized that I was doing it in a very different way than what basically everyone had been taught. Those kind of gimmicks in sales, like double cold call somebody because they'll think it's their kiddo's school and they'll pick up. I did it focusing on the client, focusing on challenges that they had, focusing on how to be of support to them. I wasn't a relationship seller. I was a challenger seller first. Like, let's think of how to move you into the modern age, do things there. But I really focus on quality and relationships at the same time. And while I was at LinkedIn, same thing happened. I was on a team of six. I built my half of my team from scratch. I had to ramp them, and I had the same quota, almost the same quota as my peers, and finished number one on my team as a leader at about 97.69%. Not that I remember. So I still missed quota, but I beat my second peer by a margin of 25%. And it made me reflect. I think there's something different that I do. There's something, about the way that I sell or the way that I teach how to sell that seems to just always kill it. So maybe I can do this for one or two other companies. Maybe I can make half the money that I made in SaaS. Maybe I can work part time, enjoy my life, go to yoga at 10 a.m. and see how that goes. So, very, very, very scary leap to entrepreneurship. And I'll tell you, I'm sure a lot of people have the same fear that when I went out on my own, I was now selling my own services. So my time, my expertise, my consulting. And I was like, who the hell is going to want to buy that? And so I let a very, very small circle of people know, former clients, et cetera. I've left LinkedIn. I'm going on my own. If I can ever brainstorm or be of help in your sales process, let me know. And two of those people immediately reached out. The first client that we had said, we've always wondered what would Sam do, but we could never ask you because there was a conflict of interest. You worked for somebody else. And the other client had been somebody who had purchased from me at every single company she had been at. Her name is Robin. And so when she said, I've just taken over as COO, I really could use your advice. Could you start to work with us? We started to build the business from there. And I think it was 5 months after I built the business that I said, okay, I think I need my first employee. And that was February of 2020, right before the world stopped for a little while.
All right, pause there for a second and take us back a little bit because you had told me something a while back when we talked about how you had been posting on LinkedIn and building your audience. And, a lot of people are also talking about community led sales now, right?
Mhm.
And I think back when you were doing it, you probably weren't necessarily thinking that, but
No.
you were building a community. So, talk a little bit about that because for anyone here who's thinking, oh, I'm going to launch a business or I'm going to launch my next business, or how can I even propel this business?
Yeah.
I think this is so important. So, talk about how you built that community and how you showed up every day.
This was a strange thing, but 2011 was my first post on LinkedIn. I still have it. And of course, it was about show me you know me, if you can believe it or not. But I think the interesting thing about this was that I would get all these accolades from my leaders, and they would say, I never thought to do that. That's a really smart strategy. And I said, well, you've been in sales for 25 years. So if it's smart to you, like I must be onto something. So I just thought, I'm going to use this channel to post my content and help other people. If it helps my tiny company, maybe it can help a few other people. So the start of it was just like, maybe I can be of support. And this is long before the days of actual LinkedIn influencers and all of that, where apparently everybody's an influencer now. So starting to do that. And then I started to see the community it built. People would DM me or message me or drop in the comments and say, this is really impactful. I didn't know I could do this. Or they would tag in their leaders and say, we should try this. And I was like, oh. And I think I was building that community before even realizing that's what it was. But then that brand started to build. I would get promotions, I would post about them, people would celebrate. And I was like, oh. And then I would start to see that we would get inbound leads from what I was posting. So I was working for a company called On24 at the time, about 2012 to 2017, 18. And in that, I'd post about webinars, I'd post about marketing, theory, things like that. I would take things that Matt Heiman would, or Matt, I'd have to,
Hein, Matt Hein.
Hein, thank you. That Matt Hein would talk about, right? Or I would see at the Content Marketing Institute and I'd weave that into webinars. And all of a sudden, we'd get all these leads. Of course, they were never for my team, but also being the competitive person that I am, I track those. So I would send them to an AE. I'd CC their leader on them. I'd say, here's a lead that came in from my post. You should go after it. I'd track that, the pipeline. Did the meeting happen? Did pipeline get generated? Did it create an opportunity? Did
Mhm.
that close? So then, even at the end of the year, while I was doing all this stuff to build my brand, I would still crush it in sales. And then I would say, by the way, I also influenced $1.9 million of revenue that the company came in because I'm spending time above and beyonding over here. And without really realizing it, that brand grew and grew and grew. But I was still only at a handful of thousand followers, 3 or 4 thousand followers during my LinkedIn days. When I left and started Sam Sales, I think I was probably at 8,000. So you can see where I'm about 110 now. It really takes time to grow. It's taken 6 years to add another 100,000 followers. It takes time to build that quality engagement. But it was amazing because I made impact globally. I still do. I posted just the other day about someone who said, my life was in, financial dire straits. I came across your content and everything. You changed my life. I'm in a completely different place than I was a year ago. And while all of that community building and that content's really important for building the business, it's an amazing, amazing feeling to know that you can impact other people, that you're doing good for the world, probably in a time where we need a whole hell of a lot of it.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Well said. Well said. And I do think it's interesting because you were just posting stuff that you knew other people wanted to know. You weren't really trying to do anything. You were trying to help, is what you were. I mean, if anything, you were just trying to help.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, like, when you share those pieces, so that helpful advice, that perspective, et cetera, you're going to impact also people who've never engaged with you. And that's the interesting part. And it probably is for you as well, Alice, that the people who inbound to our website and then say, I follow you on LinkedIn, I'm like, who are you? I've never seen your name before. I've never seen you in our likes and our comments, et cetera. They're the lurkers. So keep in mind, right? Your wins are coming from all those people that are reading, evaluating, deciding, and then they're coming in. But the other great thing is, it shouldn't be all about business. People want your stories. They want to be inspired by you. They want to know what you did when you fell flat on your face and how you picked yourself back up. Those are the stories that help build a brand of, if you've been in this position, you can succeed too. If you've seen this failure, you can pick yourself back up as well. They want to be where you are eventually. So sharing those personal stories is key. And I think it also creates the authenticity of who you are. Now, there's people who share personal stories all the time who, to me, come across as, arrogant and self-celebratory all the time. And they think they're masters of the universe. And then there's people, that try their best to be self-deprecating and show, that they don't have it all figured out and they're still working it out. So those stories matter.
Yeah, I agree. Those stories absolutely do matter. And you built up so much while we were on 24 that LinkedIn noticed, right? And
Yeah.
you got recruited away.
It's exactly right. And I think it's an interesting thing. I try to be careful about when I share this with in our LinkedIn client trainings. Cause I'm like, I got recruited to LinkedIn by being on LinkedIn. And people are like, oh, that's how I do that. Okay, great. I'm like, oh gosh. But it was. And in fact, I was such an advocate of LinkedIn Sales Navigator and still am to this day, that I was posting about it quite a bit. And our team, our CSM team noticed and said, would you be willing to come in and do an interview, like a client testimonial in our offices in San Francisco? And I said, are you kidding? Like I died. I said, do I have to pay you? Do I have to pay for my transportation? What do I have to do? Like I was so naive. And they're like, no, 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 we'll just be excited to have you. Thanks. So I was like, okay. So I went, I think I even got LinkedIn stocks afterwards. And I thought I had just again died and gone to heaven. But it was the enthusiasm for the platform. One, the sharing of content that got me noticed. And then two, the enthusiasm for the platform that got them to say, you should work here. And one interesting thing about this is that my very first offer to get into sales in 2008 was a job I turned down. And my boss was like, let's reevaluate this, come on board. And so then I said yes. And the same thing happened with LinkedIn. When I interviewed for LinkedIn, I turned down the first job that I was offered there. And I remember thinking that the company was so big. I said, I'm gonna get lost. Nobody's gonna know who I am. I'm never gonna stand out. I'm not gonna have a shot at advancing because it's such a big brand. And they said, we respectfully decline your decline. And let's keep talking and figure out how to bring you on. But Yeah, this brand building on LinkedIn can get you recruited, right? It can get you noticed. It can bring in leads. It can build your business. It can build your brand and visibility 3 or 4 years before you think you want to build your business, right? So get started now. You'll wish you had done it a year ago.
Yes, absolutely. So all of this led to you launching Sam Sales and just starting by, okay, a few people I know, I'm going to let you know that I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And then you continued to post, it continued to grow. So let's talk about the first person you hired and
Yeah.
how you ended up growing the company to where it is today, which is phenomenal. So
Yes.
we have yourself out there selling and delivering. I remember those days really well
Oh
myself.
my God.
And in fact, I still do most of the selling and delivering.
Yeah.
And then what happened? You're like, oh my gosh, this is bigger than I thought it might be.
Yeah. The piece of advice I got when I started Sam Sales was don't consult because you're going to run yourself thin, right? And so I was thinking like how do I start to scale myself? So our first hire was somebody who acted as a BDR for one of our clients. They were smaller on the smaller end, 3 4 million dollars in revenue, but they needed leads. They didn't have a sales team. They didn't know how to do it. And I thought, well, I can probably manage a BDR for you. I can write your sequences. I can tell them where to prospect, what subject lines to write, how to show me. I can do all of that. And I remember we paid our first BDR was paid at $20 an hour, $25 an hour. And I went to the client. I said, would you be willing to pay $50 an hour for this? And they said, yes. And I was like, oh my God. Again, so naive in the early days, but I remember being like, I am going to make money while I sleep. I was so excited. Could not believe my good fortune that I could earn $25 extra per hour while not doing any work, that somebody else would be doing that work. So we brought this person on and then we started to listen. We just listened to demand from our clients. And every time something came up, we thought, is this a temporary thing? Is it specific to them? Or is this something that we keep hearing everybody struggles with? And can we scale this? Can we turn this into something? Can we productize this? And so we had some great, spectacular failures of those things that we tried to do. And we had some really wonderful wins, right? We kept building out the concept of show me, you know me as as a sales methodology. It's a little mini sales methodology, but how do you do your research? How do you not be creepy? How do you show up in a subject line, right? In a completely different way. And then how does that carry forward into every part of the sales process? People don't seem to know how to write sequences. So we'll teach them, we'll write the sequences for them, and then we'll teach you how to write your sequences based on data and our own methodology. Showing up on LinkedIn. You don't know what to say, how the algorithm works, what to write. You don't have the time for it. You don't have the time for all the back end administration, connecting with people, managing your DMs. Give us all that. We'll do it. We know how to write. We know the algorithm better than anybody else. Give it to us and we'll give it a go. And so those things, right? We look for those patterns and we kind of look about where the industry is moving. We focus on that. We leave the rest behind, but focus on that. And I think the two things that really stand out for us is that in the age of scaled and veiled everything, as I say, right? We scale all of our communications and we make them veiled. We make them look like we made an effort. When we just use AI, we sure as hell didn't make an effort. And the age of that, and in the age of thinking about people just being desperate for human connection, that show me you know me stands out. It's like the more we add AI, the better our methodology does. So we're here for it. And then in thinking, how do we build less of a faceless brand? How do we build brand awareness for a company that has 20 employees and nobody knows they exist? Well, instead of continuing to drain our wallets and bank accounts with SEO, why don't we just go to the party where everyone already is? Why don't we go to LinkedIn and show up there and talk on that stage, right? And that's a unique opportunity I think people have. We've really thought about the end goal is how do we get people to our website, webinars to see what we have to say. But instead of getting them to come to your parties over here, go to their party first and prove that coming to yours is going to be a sound investment of their time and their attention. Go there first and then lure them away. Don't spend millions of dollars on SEO and syndicated third party content to get them over here. You can go where they already are. Attention is so scarce these days. Like, show up where they're showing up.
Oh my gosh. Well said. And so you're listening to your own customers in the marketplace telling you this is what we need. This is, and so you started to, okay, how do I make this repeatable? I can't just be pure out consulting. I've got to make a process. That you started building those programs and those processes
Mhm.
and making them repeatable
Yeah.
and listening and then niching in and niching in and niching in, right? So
Yeah.
now it's you and this BDR. And then very quickly, you started really realizing the potential and growing. So let's talk about these other salespeople. You have an amazing team.
Yeah.
I believe it's all women. Am I correct?
All women. Yes. And
All
I
women.
we always know if we're not going to hit it off with a client when they come on board and they say, "Where are the men?" And we say, "Who cares?" I mean, just kidding. To be very clear, we are an equal opportunity employer. We prioritize hiring expat and military spouses because I think there's still so few job opportunities for these
Mhm.
multiple master degree of holding brains of the world, and so we prioritize that, which end up being women most of the time. But yeah, we hired Catherine on our team was our first hire, and then about a month later, we hired Kim on our team to come on board and start to help with training and start to help with all sorts of things on strategy. And then we really quickly expanded. So we brought on another BDR, actually two more BDRs. Now they have transitioned to different roles. Like our second BDR, third BDR that we hired is now our VP of marketing. So she came on board. She had multiple master's degrees, had incredible background experience, and is a Navy spouse. We brought her on. She had just been laid off as part of COVID. And she was like, I would love to work for you. And then we said, well, can you do some marketing? Can you write our newsletter? We found that she was unbelievably creative and has just, taken this role and just killed it for us. So I think that's the other cool thing is most everybody that started with us in one role absolutely is not doing the role that they started with us. But we kept adding on. So my first true cost center was hiring an EA, who is now our director of operations, Carol. And I remember being like, I don't really know if I have a lot of work for you, like 4 or 5 hours a week. Because to your point, I was selling, training, executing, doing everything on my own. And so I said, well, maybe scheduling is something I could take off my shoulders. Maybe invoicing I could take off my shoulders. Maybe paying our people I could take off my shoulders. And I still remember her first invoice for 2 weeks was 44 hours. And all I could think was that would have been my time. That would have been me doing that on the weekends at 6 a.m. at night. Oh my God. I didn't realize how much I needed that. So probably
So
one decision I'd make. Yeah.
what year in were you when you finally decided? Because I think this is a crucial one, right? Like, I
Yeah.
think people wait way too long. Leaders wait way too long to get the help that they need. They're doing
Yeah.
all the selling and maybe some of the delivering too. If whether it's a software product and they're an engineer or whether it's training or whatever it is, these early stage companies are doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, get a sales coordinator, get an EA, do something, right? But they wait too
Yeah.
long. So I'm just curious, what year was it for you when you finally decided to do that?
Carol came out in January of 2021. So we were in business about 18 months before I said, okay, we'll break. And then I don't think it was until mid year 2022 that Kim on our team, who was our VP of Enablement and Strategy, really started to take on more and more training. So, most weeks were just exhausting. And it's funny, like you think about the effort it takes to train, like how hard could it be? You sit behind a desk, you just look at a camera all day and you tell people your thoughts. But something about the of taking 19,000 breaths as you talk and talk and talk all day is depleting, even if you're not really moving too much. So
Well, it's
that's
also
when we,
dehydrating. People don't realize, right?
yeah,
It's
exactly.
dehydrating. It takes a lot out of you. But I just want to point back to something you said earlier, which I've heard many times. Oh, I think I'll do this and run my own business because then, I can just like not have to work that much and I'll go to yoga in the middle of the day and blah, blah, blah. Doesn't sound like any of that was really happening for you. Sounds like you were working overtime.
Did not happen. And there were weeks where I didn't know when I would run to the restroom or when I would eat lunch during the day. And it was just, where we had to put in guardrails to my time. Like I need a 30-minute break within the 12 to 2 o'clock range, things like that, where we had to start saying this isn't sustainable. But we started to grow strategically in that sense. And we also started to compartmentalize. So enablement is in this lane for 99% of our work, training there. Marketing is handled by this. And I started to have more of an executive presence versus having to be in the weeds. But there's still those growing pains. There's still a lot of the in the weedsing that I am today. And I think that's been an important and hard lesson. It's in a book that you recommended to me, Alice. Like it's so much easier to 10x your business than 2x your business. And it was a great light bulb moment of what are all the things I keep saying yes to that will double our revenue when I really need to say no so I can keep my eye on the ball of the things that will 10x our revenue, even if it's 3x this year, 6x next year. But that is a hard step to take away because, the founder led growth and founder led sales and all of that. Some people expect to see you on sales calls, and some things need your voice, your intelligence on them because people are buying that person's brand, and it's hard to stop and kind of start to pull away and say, I've taught you guys enough of how to do it my way. I trust you.
Oh my gosh. And I remember my dad talking about that way back in the day with Miller
Mm,
Hyman
yeah.
and, saying, we've got to let other people do this, right? If we can do it, we can train someone else to do it. How do we do it? Right.
Mhm.
And then having to back away from it because people were still requesting him and Bob Miller all the time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I remember when they put a premium on their time. Oh, well, this is what the program costs. And oh, you'd like to have Steve Hyman? That'll be an additional $10,000. Now, back in the day, we're talking about like the 80s, right?
Yeah.
That was a lot of money.
A
So
lot of
you're like,
money.
oh, well, maybe I will take one of those other instructors that you have, right?
And
But
that's
you've
the
got to figure it out or you'll never scale your company, right? You have got
right.
to figure out a way to be there when it's most impactful, most meaningful, brings the most benefit to your company, not necessarily money, because sometimes there's other benefit that's important too, but you've got to know that, right? And then everyone has to protect your time. Otherwise, you will just be sucked into everything.
And that is exactly it. It's the difference. We can work with you and we can help you do anything, but if you want Sam, which there's not a lot of her to go around, it comes at a premium. And I think it's a hard thing to say to protect your time and say, we're not going to bend and discount for that time. If you want me and if it's worth it, then it is. And if it's not, that's okay too. There's other people you can have. But it can be it can be easy to say yes to a discount because you're like, it's just an hour, it's just an hour times an hour times an hour times an hour, and it goes fast.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Okay. So today you have 20 people at your company. How many of them are doing sales? And explain to us a little bit of what your go to market, group looks like and how they approach the market.
Yeah, so we have almost 20, like you said, all female team. There's two salespeople and then myself on top of that that do either the closing or initial calls if they're really important, high key stakeholders. Our go-to market motion is interesting. So I think that that's also the benefit of LinkedIn and having that community and that brand for so long. We don't do traditional outbound. We do outbound, but we don't do traditional outbound. So sales sequences and our own show me, you know me philosophy of what we do for emails, we don't do that. So what we actually do is we capitalize on all the connections that I have. So let's say somebody new connects with me, the SVP of sales at, AT&T, and they connect today. What we'll do is we connect, we write back and we say, thanks for connecting. If they say something positive, we might invite them to our newsletter, our webinars, share something with their team that would be helpful for them, right? Making sure it's clear that we're communicating with that executive and saying, your teams, your frontline leaders might be interested in this. And then what we'll do is we'll go back 6 or 7 weeks later and we'll say, hi, we've been connected for a few weeks. Hopefully you see my content. Hopefully it resonates. We'd love to talk to you in a little bit of a more polished way, but can we have a meeting? It's our it's been a while campaign is what we call it. And it's basically as difficult as that. Somebody connects with us, they become a new subscriber to my content, and then we say, would you like to meet? And it's incredible how often people write back or they say, this is the right person, or we'd love to, or not right now, but we're talking about this. But then all we do is rinse and repeat that. So maybe the person doesn't respond. We check in a week, and then maybe they still don't respond. So we check in for 3 months, right? And just keep that going. Here's something helpful to you. Here's something to educate you. Here's something that would help you in this role. If you're ever up for a chat, let me know. And you basically just have this snowball effect where we're DMing, our buyers, but in a more buyer-centric, manners-driven way while they're hopefully being educated by our content. And here's the great bonus about that. When you do a DM or you've recently connected with somebody or you've commented on their content, they're much more likely because of how the algorithm works to see your content. So we're really killing a lot of birds with a few little stones. And so we don't have to do the traditional things because I think probably like has been core to my career. We just do it differently. We think about all the other things that no one else is thinking of to do.
Right. And I also know that you probably get a lot of introductions to people who can buy from you, because the people like me who know you and know what you do, or who have used your service and have been so pleased with it, are telling others. And I think that is so critical too. So, talk a little bit about how you nurture that to keep
Yeah.
those referrals coming in, those introductions coming.
I think one, it's like just it's really thinking about the work that we deliver, and making sure that our clients are happy, that they feel like they've gotten wonderful work out of us. But two, I think it's because we are so different, we think so differently. We're not for everybody, but because we show up in that way, people feel like this is someone I can trust. I know they're going to take good care of the client, even if there's not a need. I know that this client will end up having a good experience with Sam Sales, right? We're known for all these things, like we send handwritten thank you notes when we've worked a deal pretty extensively and they go with somebody else. We'll send you a handwritten thank you note to just say thanks for letting us be a part of that process. And I think where most would never put in that time and effort or say, what do I have to be thankful for? We say, like, you gave us your time. You let us be part of the process. You gave us an at bat. We had a shot. And yes, we wish it had gone differently and we'd gotten all of your budget, but maybe next time. And I think even just simple things like that make a difference, because buyers are like, well, the person that got the deal didn't send me anything. And we're like, oh, we know. And so then we wait, hopefully, if things don't work out in the exact right way, maybe they come back to us. People change jobs, people get promoted, people move divisions, right? There's always going to be a way to think about that long game and how it impacts you. But I think, we have there's a woman by the name of Christine Uri who used to be the chief legal officer for NG, about a 5,000 person company. And I remember her saying, I don't recommend people. I recommend you, because I trust that you're not going to botch it, basically, right? And I think that that's the reputation you can build as a seller, as a CEO, as a leader, that people trust you with sticking their own neck out for you for introductions to other people.
Yeah. Yeah. You said something really powerful. All the CEOs out there listening. I mean, you said a ton of powerful things, but something that you can really shine when you lose a deal are your salespeople thanking the buying team for their time.
Mhm.
Didn't go the way we wanted, but thank you for your time. And we're always here, should you need us in the future, right? A
Yeah.
simple handwritten thank you note, even as an email, that would be fantastic, but a
Yeah.
handwritten would be great, but it's just not happening. So
Just
I
make
think
the effort.
it's so important. And that's something I have just always done. Whether a CEO, I get all of my businesses referrals, but when they come to me, whether they end up buying from me or not, I always say thank you. I always keep in touch with them. And I think it's just such a beautiful thing. And they do come back years later sometimes. So
Yeah.
it's been absolutely worth it to do it. Oh my gosh. Well, so many good things. As we wrap up here, what's next for Sam Sales? What are you looking forward to?
Oh my gosh. I think we are really doubling down on our LinkedIn executive branding methodology. We've just made these tremendous investments in building better decks and our website for it. And we're investing in our process and our talent there. And I'm really excited to see where this is going to go. I think we've been beating this drum for a long time, helping the idea of it become more visible. I think, in terms of that holistic strategy, we've really invented that whole piece that comes together of everything that we do. And I'm just interested to see what's going to happen in these next few years. Will we be known as the standard for it, the gold standard for it? Will it really explode? I'm really excited to see what happens here.
Yeah. Well, me too. And I'm watching you. So, oh my gosh. Before we go, I have three quick questions for you. And these are for all those CEOs out there listening. What's a book that you think every CEO should read?
This is a little unbusinessy, but it's Unreasonable Hospitality. So it's by Will Guidara. He is one of the former, I think he was the owner at one point, 11 Madison Park. So for any of you foodies in New York City, you definitely know this restaurant. The name alone makes my heart race. And it's really a fantastic book of thinking how to build your business, how to lead teams, how to deliver unreasonable hospitality for your clients, your employees alike. Lots and lots of margin notes for me.
Yes, so many great stories in that book, right? About things that they did that people just were not expecting, and it just bowled them over, really. I mean,
There was the paying the meter, asking, people when they came for dinner and they said, "Where are you parked?" And they said, "Oh, out on the street." and the staff would run and pay the meter, or, creating a first sledding experience for a family that was out of town and seeing snow for the first time. I think as a leader, I would say, like I've always said, I feel like we have a responsibility to our people, but what a wonderful, our people that report to us, but what a wonderful opportunity to get to delight them and our clients alike. We have depending on your beliefs, we have one life to live, right? And what an amazing chance to get to go above and beyond, think creatively, send little things to people in the mail, right? Like there's just so many opportunities to delight people. Why wouldn't we?
Like the time when you sent me a beautiful orange notebook and I was so surprised and I love
Ah,
it.
I
And I
love
write
it.
it all the time. Yes, I carry it
I
with
have
me.
mine over here
Yeah.
too.
And okay, next question. What's a podcast that you love because it makes you think differently? Doesn't have to be a business podcast.
I love it is a business podcast, and it's Harvard Business Review Women at Work. If you haven't heard it, it's great. I think the thing about it is that I tend to be impatient. It's hard to see the sign behind me, but it says urgent bird gets the worm. So I'm constantly buns on fire, moving everywhere all the time. And a lot of podcasts don't give me a lot of juice for the squeeze, so to speak. So I want to learn as much as I can. HBR Women at Work gives me something 10 things every single time. And I'll tell you, for any of you who are listening who say, okay, I want to get on LinkedIn. What do I write? Listen to a few podcasts. Go back and listen to Alice's podcast. You'll be inspired. You'll have opinions, and those will make great posts.
Yes, great advice. And lastly, what does every CEO need to know to win in this market?
Oh my gosh. Quality over quantity. Out of anything else, quality over quantity, and getting back to the basics. Your whatever size you have as a sales team, if the best thing that you can give them is teaching them how to master the foundations of sales. People are craving this. They want to be heard. They want active listeners. They want problem solvers. And we're inheriting a whole generation of sellers who have never been asked to do that and are now expected to do it. So if you can do that while everyone's still focusing on scale, AI, teach them how to get to the basics. Teach them how to have a great conversation, how to show up to learn, how to be active listeners. That'd be my advice.
Absolutely winning. Absolutely winning. Love it. Thank you so much for being on the show. I so appreciate you. You know, I adore you. And I'm always here to help you in any way that I can. And if you would like to find my friend Sam, you can find her on her website, #SamSales, or on LinkedIn. But you know the rule. If you want to connect with Sam, you're going to have to say that you heard her here on my podcast, or she is not going to accept your request. Right?
That's right. Absolutely. We'll block you.
So that's Samantha McKenna from Sam Sales. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
What a pleasure. Thank you, Alice.
If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.